In this video, we're talking about the PSPortal's reviews, the PS5 Slim's exciting news about its disk drive, and PlayStation's Black Friday plans.
Snake, are you okay? Snake?
How's it going, everyone? Welcome to PSReady. This is the early week news video. I've got some cool stuff to talk about today. The first thing we're going to talk about is the PSPortal review roundup. There's actually a lot of interesting stuff there. Then we're going to talk about the PS5 Slim and how many different ways you can actually swap the disk drive. And finally, we're going to bring it home with a roundup of PlayStation's Black Friday deals. So if that sounds good to you and you want more news videos like this in the future, make sure you subscribe and set your notifications to all. The first thing I want to talk about today is the reviews of the PlayStation Portal. I went and I read them all. I unfortunately did not get my hands on a review unit, and I don't think I'm going to pick the thing up, especially after reading these reviews, because it turns out it's really for the niche audience that we all thought it would be from the very beginning when it was announced. So anyway, I read through all the reviews. I picked out some that sounded interesting, and yeah, so we're going to start out with VGC. They absolutely loved it. They said the screen is bright and clear and the whole system is ergonomically pleasing. The thumbstick feels slightly different from a standard DualSense controller, and it's yet to be seen if it'll be afflicted with the stick drift issues of the PS5 DualSense. I'm just going to come out and say it. I think the DualSense stick drift issues are completely overblown. I've honestly only gotten stick drift with one controller ever, and it was my Boba Fett edition of the Xbox Series X controller. So yeah, I've had my white DualSense from my original PS5 for a long time. I used it for a while and no stick drift ever really came up with that. So, you know, I don't really think that's ever going to be an issue with the DualSense or the PSPortal outside of a few outlier cases. But yeah, Sony will always be good about replacing that stuff under warranty. Like, honestly, Sony's warranty system is really good. So if you pick up the PSPortal and get stick drift within the first year or so, I think you'll be just fine. The Verge was definitely in the middle. They had a lot of positive stuff to say about the hardware, but they also had a lot of questions. The reviewer said, "My first impression is that this device is primarily for PlayStation diehards who want a simple, dedicated tool for streaming games around their homes. It may be for when your main TV is in use or to take games to other rooms like the bedroom or the bathroom if you're okay with flagged devices, but $200 is a little pricey for such a single-use accessory to a $400 to $500 game console, especially when there are many other options available to you that you may already own." And now with the PS5 Slim taking over the spot of the main PlayStation 5, it's actually a $450 to $500 console that this thing is an accessory to, and that's been my biggest criticism, and honestly, it's the biggest reason why I didn't pick it up. I think the price point is fair at $200, but for how limited the device is, that's what really makes $200 not really feel like it's worth spending. And then you pile on top of that the fact that you could go get a backbone controller for $100, or if you have a Steam Deck, you could use Chiaki and just stream games from your PS5 to that, or if you have a PC or an iPad or even a computer, there are so many options you guaranteed already have for streaming games from your PlayStation 5 that having a 1080p LCD screen connected to a DualSense for $200, it's not really worth the upgrade unless you are that big diehard PlayStation fan who knows the only thing you're going to play games on is your PlayStation 5 and you want a dedicated official experience from Sony. Anyway, for the third review, I went to sites that I don't normally read, so I picked between Polygon and Kotaku, and Kotaku actually had an interesting point. They said, "At present, Portal's touchpad functionality is clumsy and poorly explained, but it's not a total deal breaker. There's not a dedicated menu for Portal under the PlayStation 5's accessory settings yet, but hopefully that's not too far off." And every single one of these reviews, even the ones I saw on Twitter, mentioned the lack of Bluetooth, right? Because with a device like this, one pair of headphones that I think most people would want to easily pair to it would be AirPods. AirPods probably wouldn't work even if it had Bluetooth all that well, because this is a problem that everyone faces with something like the Steam Deck, or if you use your Bluetooth headphones with your PC, you would definitely have latency. So Sony's way around that is PS Link, and there are plenty of headphones out there at this point that do support PS Link, like the Pulse Explore and the February 21st releasing Pulse Elite headsets. But yeah, it's not necessarily the best scenario when your two options are to use wired headphones, which I doubt anyone really has anymore, or go buy new headphones that aren't even really going to be available at launch with this headset. Anyway, the reason I brought up the Kotaku review in the first place is because they mentioned the touchpad functionality being finicky, and that's something I didn't think about. This thing technically has a touchpad because it's a giant touch screen in the middle of the DualSense controller instead of the touchpad, but it's in the touch screen. So you have to touch certain parts of the screen to bring it up. Like a double tap apparently will bring up the PS menu. It's not very intuitive. It's something that like you're going to have to look at the manual to figure out. And then once you learn it, you'll probably get used to it. But yeah, it seems like a pretty inelegant solution to a problem that Sony ultimately created for no reason. Like the touchpad, I think is probably the worst innovation that has ever come to the DualSense and DualShock controller line, because now it needs to be supported in perpetuity and it causes problems with new devices like the PlayStation Portal. So yeah, to summarize all these reviews, everyone seems to be extremely satisfied with the quality of the hardware. The 1080p 60Hz screen looks really good. Unfortunately, the vast majority of the reviews I saw uploaded at 30 FPS, so I can't see if it's streaming at a good 60 FPS or not, but everyone's basically saying it does. The streaming is decent enough. A lot of the reviews, pretty much all of them, mention that like if you have a good internet connection, the vast majority of your time playing is going to be a crisp, clear 1080p feed from your PlayStation 5, but you're definitely going to have those moments where it slows down, you get those blocky artifacted textures, and everything looks like mud for a few minutes. And there were some annoyances, like if your PS5 isn't logged into regularly, you're going to have to go to the room it's in and turn it on to connect your PSPortal to it easily, or sometimes it might not just connect at all even if it is on. There was some finicky stuff with the connection to the PlayStation 5, which is weird because the main place you're going to use this is in your house with your PlayStation 5. I really hope that enough people buy this thing where Sony sees that there is a demand for handheld PS5 hardware, and then in a couple of years down the line we do see a full-on successor to the PSP. But for right now, the only PSP option we have is the PSPortal, and if you have an iPad, you have a newer iPhone, you have a PC, you have anything really that can play PlayStation games over remote play, the only benefit you're getting out of the PSPortal is the haptic feedback from the DualSense controller being connected to the tablet. But if you have a DualSense, you can connect it to your iPad and theoretically get the exact same experience. So I don't really know who this thing is for outside of diehard PlayStation fans, and it seems like Sony priced it in a way where they'll make a little bit of money in the back end, but overall this thing seems like it's going to be a wash. So yeah, I'm personally going to skip the PSPortal. It's just not for me. I have a Steam Deck. I'm going to get the Steam Deck OLED, and now I have a PS5 in my basement and in my living room because of my PS5 Slim, so I think I'm pretty set on PlayStation in every room. I don't really need a PSPortal. Next up, let's talk about the PS5 Slim, because I noticed in my review from the comments that there are a ton of questions surrounding the disk drive, and thankfully there's a great video out there that kind of breaks down every question people had. So this video is coming from one of my favorite channels to watch in the background while I'm editing, called Tronics Fix, and this is a straight up SEO play. It's called Can You Swap PS5 Slim Disk Drives? Definitely go check out the whole video if this is interesting to you, but basically the first question that's asked is what happens if you reset your PS5 Slim after the disk drive is registered to it? And thankfully, I don't know, interestingly is the right word, I guess. It unregisters the disk drive before your PS5 is reset, so it basically puts it back to factory settings. The next test was to set up that PS5 and repair the disk drive to it, and then take the disk drive out and try to pair it to another PS5 console. And the first thing that happens is you get a little error message in the top right corner, you know, the circle with the line through it, and then the PS5 says, hey, I gotta restart, and then it pairs that disk drive to the console. And weirdly, once it's paired to that second console, you can take it out and put it back in the original console, and it doesn't need to be repaired to that original console. So theoretically, you could take your disk drive and put it in a bunch of PS5s, and it'll remember all of the PlayStation 5s that it's synced with forever. Tronics Fix did point out that this could be a bug or a mistake on Sony's part, and they could release an update in the future that makes it so once your disk drive is paired to one console, it will stay on that console, and if you put it in another console, it'll have to pair to that and then forget the other console. But for right now, you can pair your PS5's disk drive to as many PS5s as you want. I'm not going to be able to test that because I only have the one PS5 Slim, but if for some reason you have a bunch of friends or you have a few, see how many you can pair the disk drive to before it throws an error and causes itself to reset. So yeah, it really seems like Sony is making the best of a crappy situation, because if you didn't really read into the controversy, this wasn't something they were doing maliciously or on purpose. It turns out it's a legal requirement to pair the disk drive with the console, and it seems like Sony was trying to make this as easy as possible with that maneuver where you can take the disk drive that's paired with one console, pair it with another, and swap them back and forth. Obviously, the vast majority, I would say like 95% at least of PS5 owners who pick up a PS5 Slim, they're not going to have to deal with this in the first place. Like me personally, I will not be buying a digital edition. I hope I don't have to buy another another PS5 Slim in the future where I'd have to switch my disk drive out, but there's no save data or anything like that that's stored on the disk drive, so it doesn't really ultimately matter in the long run, right? Like if you get a digital model, you can pay 85 bucks, you can get a disk drive, you can pop it on the side of your console super easily. Like that's the one thing that I think is worth pointing out from my PS5 review. These plates come off so much easier than the plates on the original PS5. Like the original PS5, it always felt like you were breaking it when you pulled off the plates, and it was impossible not to scratch the plastic of the center chassis. But this one, you just pull them up and they pop off and then they snap back on super well, and it feels like it was designed to have these plates replaced. So overall, I think the PS5 Slim is a really good hardware revision because it's a benefit everyone scenario. It benefits Sony because they're making one PS5 and just popping a disk drive on the side of it or not. And for consumers, it's great because there are already tons of PS5 Slims out there in the wild because they did the revision of the chip months ago. So if you bought a PS5 in the last, like, I don't know, 6 months or so, you already technically have a PS5 Slim. It's just bigger. And for people who have the original launch PS5, even though the PS5 Slim is running things 20% more efficiently, I've had zero issues running games on my PS5, and it seems like that's going to be the norm going forward. So yeah, this disk drive situation, while it is a little bit annoying that you have to go through one more setting in the setup menu when you're turning it on for the first time, it seems like Sony really thought about this and made it as simple as possible and made lemonade out of a situation where they were given lemons. Jesus Christ, I feel 85 years old using that analogy. Anyway, the third news item I have for you guys today is that PlayStation has announced their Black Friday sale. It is running for 10 full days from November 17th all the way till November 27th. You're going to get PlayStation Gear discounts, you're going to get PlayStation Plus discounts, and you're going to get PlayStation Games discounts. So let's break this down because PS Plus is where it gets interesting. So right now, Essential is $80, Extra is $135, and Premium is $160 for an entire year. That price increase is nuts, dude. Like, holy shit. That is crazy to charge $135 for PS Plus Premium. That is wild. Anyway, with this 30% discount, Essential is going to drop to $56, Extra is dropping to $94.50, and Premium is dropping to $112. So if you look at it that way, paying $14 over the original price of Essential, I think is worth it. Just paying the 95 bucks for Extra. If you don't have PS Plus already, I think that's the way to go, just because you get that library of the last year or so of PlayStation games, because you're getting Horizon Forbidden West, you're getting Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, you're getting Demon's Souls, Returnal. Like, you have some great PS5 experiences ready to go on PS Plus Extra. So it's like paying $14 extra to get a huge library of games for an entire year. I think that is worth it if you don't have PS Plus already. This is where it gets a little tricky because if you already have PS Plus, you do get a discount for upgrading, but it's weird because if you have Essential and upgrade to Extra, it's 25% off. And if you have Essential and upgrade to Premium, it's the full 30% off of the upgrade cost. Of course, Sony doesn't tell you any of these upgrade prices, but from what I was able to find, it's just a flat math like addition situation where they take the total price of Extra and subtract the $80 a year or $60 or whatever you paid. So assuming you paid $80 a year, these are the prices that you're going to pay. Upgrading to Extra would cost you $21.25, and upgrading to Premium would cost you $32. I have Extra, and I think after this year ends, I'm just going to drop back down to Essential because I have an illness where I buy games when they come out instead of waiting for them to come to streaming services. And yeah, I own every game pretty much that's available on Extra. But if you're not mentally insane like me and you wait for games to come to PS Plus Extra subscription, I think it might be worth upgrading, and you're not going to get a better discount than this. So it's a good deal, I think, based on the current prices. It just sucks that they raised the prices. So I think ultimately, no matter what, you're still going to pay more than all of these things cost a year ago. So yeah, that's the world we live in. Inflation caused all of this, and it sucks. Anyway, when it comes to the PlayStation Store, of course, there's going to be game discounts. They didn't specifically say what the discounts are going to be, but the games they called out are 2K24, EA FC Sports 24, which is their new version of FIFA that's no longer called FIFA, and Assassin's Creed Mirage. Out of those three, I'm excited for AC Mirage. It's a $50 game to begin with, so hopefully they discount it down to like 25 or 30 bucks. I've been waiting to pick that game up. It's just one that slipped by me. And then finally, the Gear Store is going to have 20% off on a bunch of items items. If you spend $75 or more, you get a PlayStation Heritage Katana hat, which is probably a beanie. They don't have a picture of it, and there will be free shipping on everything. So that's a cool little discount over there. And I went and checked it out. They have like North Face jackets that have the PlayStation logo. So it seems like they actually have some pretty quality stuff on the PlayStation Gear store. I might pick something up. I don't know. So yeah, that covers it for the PlayStation Black Friday deals and this video. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Remember to subscribe and set your notifications to all if you haven't already. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching and shape on.